Now, back to Steiny and Guru on 95.7 The Game.
Crossover time. That means Mark Willard and Dan Dibley are joining us.
Yeah.
What's up, Dibs? How you doing?
Well, I'm doing great, and I can't help but notice that Guru, that shirt, is that a medium?
It's an extra, the XL. I was double XL, so shout out to AbundantLifeWeightLoss.com. They've taught your boy the secret to losing 1 pound of fat.
I was thinking that you used to be like rocking the double X, and now I'm looking at that and thinking it's an X, and I don't love the cowboy shirt, but I see that you got some room in there. Now, the guns are filling up the arms, but okay.
Yeah.
I didn't need to sniff for all this, but you're looking good.
I appreciate it. I feel light as a feather. And I'm just trying to do my due diligence.
I like it.
And I just want my friends and family to be a part of it, too, because they're starting to say, hey, Guru, we see some gains, and that's why I'm juiced. And I appreciate your kind words.
No problem. And you should give...
I mean, they see some losses. I knew you weren't going to be able to let that one go. Yeah.
Gains.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm leaving on vacation. I got to give him something.
Exactly.
You promised
some gains
to lay
in the
out.
journey. Yeah, some gains in
You promised to lay out.
Yeah.
He's having some weight loss gains.
Yes.
Which
it is a funny. It's funny.
It's a little bit of an oxymoron.
I know
is what
exactly.
it is.
Exactly. You referred to yourself as a comedian yesterday. You have to appreciate comedy when it shows up.
That's not comedy.
It was funny.
That's mean-spirited, pointing out someone who's wrong.
I'm used to it.
He's not wrong.
Because they missed your air.
Funny.
We just had Casey Johnson on. Johnny forgot where he worked and how long he'd been gone.
I didn't forget.
Oh, wow.
John Salad.
I got it wrong.
Hey, you got to hear it.
I go back 30 years with a guy. I'm like Casey Johnson, writes for the Chicago Tribune, also NBC Sports Chicago. Hey, Casey, how you doing, buddy? He goes, yeah, I left the Tribune 6 years ago.
Then he read the second one. He goes, that went away. You had to hear.
I could do you one better.
Okay.
The last time we had Charles Davis on for the NFL season, this was many months ago, because I've been used to having Charles on when we were doing Fox Sports Radio stuff forever. I could not get it out of my head that he's not at Fox anymore. So I bring him on, big intro. My guy, we've been doing it for years. Charles Davis with NFL on Fox. And he starts the entire conversation. He's like, this is great. It's great to be here, but I'm on CBS. Flash forward 6 months later, we have him on again. I do the exact same thing again.
Oh,
and he's like, dude.
That's unlike you,
Willard.
Willard.
He's like, you got to stop.
Wow.
Like, you've got to stop doing this now.
That's pretty good.
So
Here's one like that.
Sham Sharanya from Yahoo Sports joins us.
Exactly.
And that's like three back or whatever.
How about this one, as long as we're on him? This one happened about 5 years ago. We brought in Terry Steinbach. Remember the old day? Because we wanted some A's conversation.
Twins.
And twins. He was a coach for the Twins. And I'm like, you're with Minnesota. And he goes, I got let go by Minnesota.
Dude.
Oh, man.
I've been fired.
Want to get away?
I got let go from Minnesota. Okay.
I mean, those are always tough.
Yeah, like today, it's my buddy Casey, so he can.
Well, and especially, and I'm going to say this to a man that I respect, we all do, and a guy that we love, but Tim Kawakami, San Jose Mercury News, and then he went to...
That's 4 jobs ago.
He's at the Standard now.
The Athletic, the SF Standard, and so, people like that, David Lombardi, it's like, sometimes you got to Google it, Trent Baalke, and sometimes you're a job behind. It's okay.
Yeah. It's all good. I mean, it's cool to be in here in this room with Guru and Warriors beat writer Matt Steinmetz.
That's pretty
exactly.
San Jose Press Democrat.
There you go.
Matt Steinmetz.
Or you could, you could Comcast Sportsnet Bay Area.
We could do that.
My man.
That dates me.
Yeah.
That's my quarterback.
It does, yeah.
So we had a couple interesting guests on. Steve Ashburner, senior writer for NBA.com.
Steve Ashburn it down. We're going to get into it.
I did not. No, you shouldn't get killed.
No.
This is another man's opinion. I hate the opinion. I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, and
I can't wait.
Casey Johnson, I don't know if you heard him.
No, because we were in the other room listening to Ashburner. Whatever his name is.
Really, it's great. It was one guy who talked a lot about Jimmy Butler's negatives and one guy who talked a lot about the positives that he brings to the table. They had very different views of Jimmy Butler.
Well, that's fine.
Off the court.
What I'm having a hard time understanding, and I think it's an NBA thing, because in the NBA, we look at these players, there's no helmets, there's no hats, and there's like just a small handful of them, NBA ones, right? And they're like, they get painted as divas. They've got these guaranteed contracts. And they will do the exact same thing that 8 guys do in the NFL every year. And then we freak out because they, quote, quit on their teammates. Someone explain to me, give me one difference between Jimmy Butler and Trent Williams.
Well, I
can't
I'll
think
let
of
you
one,
go. Well, no.
difference.
I don't know what.
I never heard someone say, Trent Williams, this is inappropriate. You quit on your teammates in Washington. Maybe it's because everyone hated the owner, so they understood it, and Miami's a respected organization. I don't know if that's what it is. I don't see the difference.
Yeah, I didn't compare him to any football players. Again, with Jimmy Butler, he's working within the framework of what the NBA's become, which means if you've got juice, you can use it and get where you want. And we've seen it with a bunch of players. And that's how you find out if a player has juice or not, whether they can actually pull it off. And Jimmy pulled it off. So I just chronicled that he's had some problems in different areas when he's been around for a while. But obviously, I mean, even Ashburner, did you hear the part where he said, well, I think they could make a Western Conference Finals run with Jimmy?
I did not hear that part.
He said, I'm not crazy about what he's done and how he's conducted himself, but he's a hell of a player and blah, blah, blah.
Well, the part that got me going, and we should play it for everybody so they know what we're talking about, but he's kind of finger-wagging at the Warriors.
Yeah, he did.
I'm not mad, but I'm disappointed.
I couldn't. That
I'm a little disappointed.
I wanted to like Steve,
like, classy organization, but hey, if you want to just like get what you want, they want to get what they want. What the hell?
And he's not committed any felonies.
I mean,
he hadn't put hands or paws on any of his teammates. I'm just saying that was a bit strong, but it lets you know, like, damn.
He challenged them to it, but no one stepped up in Minnesota.
He did, right?
He said, "Any of you want a piece?" And Wiggins went K-Wig, and
yeah, he did.
the kitty cat went on the scratching post, and all the rest of. You can laugh. That was funny.
And you taught me laugh into the mic. You don't smile behind it. You laugh.
This guy, all he does is grin.
Oh, okay.
But to your point about like
the YouTube audience knows that
he's gonna be on a red eye tonight.
NBA ones, like how many NBA ones have that au jus, as we talk about prime rib with au jus? And if you look at the list, there aren't that many. Like Jokic, if he wanted to go full on,
check.
Jimmy Butler, yeah, sure. Embiid,
check.
Well, before, I don't think anymore.
Exactly.
I think his career might be in
Kawhi
trouble.
Leonard, well, he's done it
In his prime, yeah, in his prime.
He did it with the Spurs.
Giannis might be able to do it.
Yep.
Oh, my
Sure.
gosh.
He needs
Giannis,
to.
and I'm looking just at the list
James
of salaries. LeBron James, yeah. And, I mean, you go down the list. Could Trae Young like flex on Atlanta? They might
They might go down to the fourth quarter.
Trey, man, you just did that thing.
No, I think it's
I
more
love
people
Trey.
than you think.
Laurie
because-
Markkinen, you gonna flex on Utah?
Yeah, I mean, he
All
could.
right. He could, but
Dame,
you
got
stink.
paid.
So,
Dame
but he
Lillard
paid
did
him.
it. He never went anywhere. Dame Lillard did it. Like,
well, he
if
did
you're-
it in Portland, but he can't do it now in Milwaukee.
SGA can do
could.
it easy.
Why not?
I'm just talking about right now.
Well, I'm just
like
all I'm
who's
saying.
an NBA one who could flex on their team? Like
Jason Tatum.
Anthony Edwards
Yeah,
could flex
Jason
on
Tatum.
Minnesota.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tatum.
Yep.
But I
And
mean,
Brown.
if a player wants out, De'Aaron Fox just did it.
He did do it.
And he
De'Aaron
got
Fox,
out. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, is De'Aaron Fox like that dude? NBA one? He's a good player, but I don't think he's in the conversation we were just having. But he did it. I just, again, like. There
was no crime.
This
Willard,
is player empowerment,
And there you
it
go.
bothers a lot of people. And LeBron is at the forefront of this, but it has worked its way through all sports. Kirk Cousins was the first quarterback to be like, "You're going to fully guarantee my contract."
As much as we laugh at
and then
him.
they did,
Yeah.
and then they did. And I mean, Deshaun Watson is still sitting here, the worst contract in sports, but how's he doing? Got $230 million and forced his way to a spot, and it turns out he's not even a good player. Like,
Did you say Debo? Did I miss that?
No, but he's,
Okay.
I mean, I don't think that applies because I think the Niners are happy to move Debo
And he
on.
cashed that
Right.
chip
Like,
a couple
They
years ago.
asked Debo to take a pay cut.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a guy who did that.
He did
and,
it. I don't think he can do it anymore.
hell
No, he
It's not
couldn't.
good enough. But anybody who's good can go
Right.
to their boss and be like, I'm out. Like, I'm not doing this
Yep.
anymore. So
It's not over, is how I believe. Like, there'll be another Jimmy Butler to your exercise.
I guess I'm just not offended by it.
Either am I.
It's interesting to me how many fans will look at this and go, "Oh, he left his teammates," and every time it's like when you do that, you're automatically backing ownership, and nobody asks for loyalty from them. Nobody asks for loyalty from them, especially if you want to talk in the NFL.
Well, in the NBA, the loyalty is we're going to give you a fully guaranteed contract, and we're going to expect you to, play basketball during that contract. That, for me, is the loyalty they show you. And so, Jimmy
Butler. How's that loyalty? That's an expectation. Loyalty would be like, we're not going to trade you. Or we're not going to bench you.
Would Miami have traded Jimmy Butler if he didn't want to be traded?
Never.
Of course not.
I don't know. They wouldn't pay him what he was worth.
But he had a player option for the contract that he signed.
Understood.
So
but
from Miami's standpoint, it is, we gave you this contract, and now you're not even through it, and you want out? Yeah, that to me is not them being disloyal.
But why? Again, it's not about disloyalty. It's about why do we only ask that of the player is what I'm saying. We only ask that of the player. Oh, you signed the contract. You have to honor the contract. Well, the team doesn't. We have a buyout market. We have trades.
Right.
We have benchings. Now, the NBA and Major League Baseball are at least forced because they are guaranteed contracts. I understand from that standpoint. But we don't demand that when a contract is agreed to, that the team see it through. We only demand that the players see it through.
The team has to pay it through. And
unless they opt to move it somewhere else or buy it out.
Right. But if Jimmy Butler never said a word and he played it out and they wanted to buy him out, that's $95 million, and then he gets to go somewhere anyway.
Understood.
So they would never do that.
Understood. But at the same time, they can do a lot of different things, and the player and they did. I mean, you don't wait to negotiate until a contract is up. You do it before that. That's what anybody would do.
Right.
Especially when you're empowered, and Jimmy is. And so he did, and they were like, we're not doing what you want. Then his only power is to say, well, then I'm not doing what you want.
Exactly. And that's the one thing that makes me a little bit cautious about this experiment here. When we talk about 2.5 years of Jimmy Butler, it's really 1.5 years of Jimmy Butler, and it's really 1 year of Jimmy Butler. Because when you get through next year, do you think that Jimmy wants another contract beyond? Right. So
but at that
he
same
plays
level,
out this year at some level.
Maybe.
You play out this year and you get into next year and you get into getting close to February and it's like, now I'm down to just 1.5 years. I want an extension. And he's done that before. And if the Warriors are like, Jimmy, I mean, you've barely been here a year. Yeah. We don't want to do that. It's possible that he goes back into Jimmy doesn't want to play mode. And that's kind of what Steve Ashburner was saying.
No doubt. But I would bet, I know how I would respond to that, and I bet most Warrior fans would agree with me, is like, in this moment, who cares? Like, who cares?
That's fair.
And that's kind of
a year from now.
But it was one of the things, it's even more than that. I look at it now and say, that's what I was wrong about 2 weeks ago. Like, that's some of the stuff I was worried about. And now, because they've declared so much at such a level for now, like now we're asking about, are you worried about when Steph's about to turn 38 and 39? Like, I don't care.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
If it blows up, there's ways to get out of it. It's short-term enough that what's happening now makes it worth it.
And I tried to tell you. Go ahead.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union.
And we brought it up, and before Ashburner came on, Dibs, and I'll ask you, is that not that Steiny woke up this morning trying to hate on Jimmy Butler, but it's 5-1. There's a euphoria. There's a newfound enthusiasm, and the parallels to a relationship they fascinate me. If I'm dating somebody that's been divorced 3 times, but you're mine, I don't sit there and talk to you about what went wrong in those 3 other relationships. We can have that conversation, but it won't be every time. And if I'm a spouse, I'm like, okay, it's you and I against the world. Let's go have fun and build what we build. Why are we talking about what could possibly revert and go wrong?
Well, you better know what went wrong. Like, if you're marrying a woman and she's been through 3 and you're number 4, you better know what happened the first 3. And if you want to look at his first 3, it was, Chicago.
Right. And whatever happened.
Chicago, things got sour. Yeah. Minnesota, he blew it up.
Yeah.
And
Miami.
Yeah, well, I mean, Philadelphia to me was a stopover. Philadelphia was, kind of like a Tinder.
But if I'm willing
to
take on that chance on whatever your answer was on what went wrong,
you better
and
know.
I'm your fourth,
better know.
But we don't have to talk about it every time, and that's why I'm like, let's enjoy the party.
You don't have to talk about it every time. But if you look at Jimmy Butler and you are spouse number 4, and you know what went wrong in A, B, and C, you should try to do everything you can to avoid A, B, and C happening again. And that's where I give the Warriors credit, because for me, Miami blew up because he wanted that bag. And so Golden State said, here's the bag. And I think Minnesota,
got that out the way.
Minnesota blew up because he didn't have OGs to play with. Here's some OGs. And I think Chicago blew up because you had Derrick Rose get hurt and that whole thing. You mentioned Joakim Noah and other names. Dude, the names you were throwing out made me feel nostalgic. And I was like, oh my God, that's right. And then that thing broke apart the way, if this thing breaks apart that way, well, Jimmy, you're 38. Now you got no options, bro. So I do think the Warriors are aware of what happened before, and I think that they've mitigated them by what they have.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be aware of what he's done, and then you weigh the risk and reward. And right now it looks like the reward is worth the risk. And maybe there will never be a risk you're going to have to deal with.
Right.
But, I to ignore it would be foolish. But, yeah, to talk about it all the time would also be foolish. But it's part of his past, and we'll see what he does here.
Yeah, they need each other. Both parties needed each other all outdoor.
And I get that he's been extended, but it's a very short extension. It's a short extension, and the circumstances with the age of the stars that we're talking about make it that I now feel like this is less risky than how I felt about it even 2 weeks ago.
Is there still a last dance feel to this?
Well, I don't know about that. And what I was concerned about was A, the extension, and B, did you just use up all the flexibility that you had for the next 2 years? The Warriors have responded in the way that, as a fan, I really hope I take them at their word, because Joe Lacob has done this in the past, that they are still willing to make a lot of deals. Like, they are still willing to sign Jonathan Kuminga and go into the tax and do all of these things. If that's the case and you're still feeling flexible, then I have many fewer concerns, even if this were to blow up 18 months from now.
Why were the Warriors able to get a player as good as Jimmy Butler for as little as they got him for?
It was a blessing because of his theatrics.
Exactly. So, that, it's part of the equation. It is. And the Warriors weighed it, and they feel like it's going to be okay for a couple years.
But I've sort of arrived at a spot that when that happens with an organization, the blame is shared.
Oh, I'm not saying it isn't.
Yeah, Miami has some Miami stuff on could have done what Dallas did. Man. Do it in the weeds. If you see something coming, do it in the middle of the night when no one realizes that there's a problem. The 49ers and Brandon Ayuk last summer, that was blood was on everybody's hands. And there's still hurt feelings now because of it. So, we can put this all on Jimmy for being a malcontent. And I don't think he behaved perfectly, but he behaved as people do when the stakes keep getting raised. And he had power, and he asked for some things to happen, and they didn't happen, and people start fighting, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I do like what you said about the Draymond Green part of it as it pertains to, what the offseason might bring. And I just wonder what you guys would think about a Steph, Jimmy, KD, and everyone core, no Kuminga, or you have Steph, Draymond, Jimmy, Kuminga, and the rest of them. Which one would you rather have? Because I can't help but think about a Draymond and Kuminga sign and trade for KD, whatever picks go or whatnot. But which one to you is more appetizing?
I would take Durant.
You take Steph, Jimmy, Durant,
yes.
and
if you have to move Kuminga and Draymond, I would.
Right. And you wind up with Pods and Moody and TJD and Quentin. And
you're not reading the chessboard. I'm right behind Steiny, but that shit, Draymond's a lifer. And his relationship with Curry.
They tried to trade him for KD.
Yeah, allegedly.
They tried to. I've talked to multiple people in the organization.
You don't believe
it? He was on the table.
I don't believe
that. He was on the table. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, on the table doesn't mean packaged and ready to go.
If KD says yes, Draymond is a Suns.
I don't believe that.
I do believe it. 100%.
That's interesting. I don't believe that. Where can I read that in print?
Probably Shams Charania.
It's not in print, but
yeah.
I don't know how
nobody here locally has put that.
I don't know how you get KD
paper.
without Draymond being a part of it. I mean, it's not going to be Wiggins and Kuminga.
I get that, but I just
I'll
feel
bet you that Draymond's not going to be a lifer.
No, I
don't think he's going to end his contract.
Are you going to put that in the cap?
No, I mean, just
put it in the cap.
Well, listen. If you
do, you remember we used to put things in the cap?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had a show together, baby.
Yeah, I mean,
51 weeks, longest year of my life. Oh boy!
I remember, 4 years ago, I was like, "Goo, how many of the big three you think will retire here?" And you said 3.
I said 3,
and I said, "I don't think so." And
but
Clay's
I thought after the pool situation, Dre was attainable. Like they were tired of it, but he got rewarded with 4 for 100. Will, all I'm saying is, I don't believe Dre. His relationship he's a byproduct of Steph, and he's brought something to the table. They gave him a new deal, and I would just be shocked. Yeah, I got you.
But
I would just be shocked.
To me, that deal is really attractive if you are a team.
Gotcha.
Next year, offseason or deadline, and he's only making $25 million, and he still is a winning player. If I'm a team that needs a dog, that's attractive to me.
But what if they go on this run without Kevin Durant as is? Why would you need to?
No, you wouldn't.
You know what I mean? It's like we got action with Dre.
But if you're the 6th seed and Memphis beats you in 5, all of a sudden now you look at it and go, man, maybe we need Giannis or KD, whatever we need, maybe we need it.
Well, it'll be circumstantial, absolutely.
Of course.
Which is what Mike Dunleavy has done really well, and it ended up turning his way, it appears. It's still only been 6 games. But 2 weeks ago, I'd have been with you, Steiny. I would have said Kevin Durant. But based on where we sit now, even though it's only been 6 games, I'm so attracted to what they were able to keep.
That's amazing.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying 2 timelines by any of that stretch. It's more just about, it is about Kuminga, but also the draft picks. Like, that's part of why I don't worry about Jimmy's attitude. The whole thing about this that's great, there's 5-1 and you look good.
But you
that's
kept
great.
your assets.
But it feels risk-free.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Like you can just wiggle right out of this if it doesn't go well.
Willard, real quick, I called the Warriors desperate. My buddy texted me like, how could they be desperate? They didn't give up everything.
Yeah, but
I go, they still were desperate. They needed an infusion of what Jimmy brought.
They were going to do something come hell or high water. That feels like a measure of desperation.
And they gave up next to nothing. If the pick they gave up was number 20, you gave up nothing. Before you go,
man, a little old piece, Steiny.
That was a noise.
One piece of advice before you go. And I need you to look at me.
Are you giving it to him or asking him for it?
I'm giving it to him.
Look at me.
As a man,
from Dibs, this makes careers. Listen,
I've played golf with you for 17 years, and I haven't played with you lately, but look at me, Steiny. Take an extra club. If you think it's a 7-iron, pull the 6.
All right.
Hit one extra club.
Man.
where are you going?
Everywhere.
Kiowa, South Carolina.
Wow. It's his annual trip to Kiowa.
Look
and
at it.
Every year, he comes back.
You guys should discuss this without me.
He shoots
a couple more minutes.
Guys, have a great rest of the show.
I'm
Steiny.
impressed by you.
Have fun on
Steiny.
95.7.
Hit one extra. You're welcome.
Will do.
Thank you. He won't.
My guys.